So I am supposed to be on vacation right now, but of course Christmas is the time where people decide to release stuff that I'm interested in, and so we're gonna take a look at Elementary OS 8.1, a big update to the distro, which was my first love. It's the thing that got me into Linux. All my first horrendous videos that I started on this channel 8 years ago were about this distro, and I still do love it. So let's take a look at everything that has changed and if Elementary OS can compete in today's pretty high-level landscape for Linux distros. But first, we're gonna take a look at our sponsor. So this video is sponsored by TuxCare, your one-stop shop if you want to automate and simplify the security and maintenance of your entire open source stack. They offer rebootless patching solutions, but also endless lifecycle support for out-of-support versions of operating systems, runtimes, libraries, and apps, meaning you keep receiving security updates for the critical components of your architecture even after they go end of life, and you gain valuable time to prepare a migration or to just stick with what currently works for as long as you need, all while staying compliant with your own regulatory obligations. And they now offer that same endless lifecycle support for your entire stack. Instead of tracking which package or product is end of life, which needs to be upgraded, and which ones can receive extended support, you can just rely on TuxCare to manage all of that, from your Linux operating systems to the crucial packages in their repos, to your runtimes, your libraries, your applications. We're talking CentOS, Ubuntu, OpenJDK, various Apache products, Comet-D, Jetty, Spring, the list goes on and on. They can cover your entire open source stack with SLA-backed patches for as long as you need, all through secure repos offering signed packages that have been validated and tested by experts. TuxCare currently serves more than 2,300 enterprise clients. They support more than 70 Linux versions, and they have more than 10,000 packages that they maintain, so do click the link down in the description if you want to learn more. So the first thing in Elementary OS 8.1 is that they now go to the secure session by default, which is the Wayland session. They basically think it's mature enough that you can absolutely use everything that you want in it, but of course if you don't like it, you still have the classic session if you prefer, which is basically the X11 session. The way they see it is that even NVIDIA drivers have been fixed enough so things can work properly, and basically Wayland is the future. There is no turning back from it, so they need to embrace it. Another thing they did in Elementary OS 8.1 is work on accessibility, notably the onboarding app. It is now fully navigable using the keyboard, meaning you can finally use that with a screen reader as well if you have any form of disability that would require use of these accessibility tools. I think it's really good. There's been a lot of work done on Linux and on Linux desktops towards accessibility. I think it's cool. This is something that really needed to be fixed, and so we're seeing progress on that. In terms of the desktop, it's still the same layout that you might know and like or not like, depending on what your opinions on Elementary OS are. They did improve the dock quite a bit though. First, you see those little dots underneath the windows. They are now not the same color depending on whether the app is running on your current workspace or not. So here the dot is much brighter because this is running on this workspace, but if I move to the other one, it gets dimmer. As usual, clicking on an application icon in the dock will surface all of its open windows, and it will automatically move you to the right desktop or the right workspace if you click on it. If you drag a file to a specific icon in the dock, it will also cycle through the open windows just so you can drag it in the one that you actually want, which is pretty useful. I think that's a nice feature that I like. And when you decide to auto-hide the dock, you can also use pressure reveal to make it pop up, meaning that if you have a window that has controls at the bottom, it's not going to automatically surface the dock every time you move your cursor to the bottom. You'll have to actually push against it to make the dock appear. Something that I'm not sure existed previously either is when you click an application that is already open, it's just going to wiggle it so you know what's actually in view. So I think that's pretty nice. If you have multiple windows, you still get this multi-window picker, but if the window that you're clicking on is currently in the forefront, it's just going to wiggle. I think it's cool. They also added the workspaces straight in the dock. So here you see a little shadow, that's the workspace I'm on, but I can click on the other ones right there to navigate them. So if you're not on a laptop, you can't use your touchpad, you can't use gestures to navigate, then this is a very easy way to also switch to a new one, and you can create a brand new workspace by clicking the little plus icon, and everything you open in there will just spawn a new workspace as well. I think it's really cool, very well implemented. Another thing they added in the dock is the background apps. So for example here I've got Discord running in the background, much like in GNOME where you could get the background apps in the little quick menu up there. In Elementary OS they're in the dock, so it's basically your system tray, but it's down there in the dock. Much like in GNOME, there are some issues. For example, I only have one instance of Discord running, but it shows up twice. You don't really see a way to interact with that. You can't right-click the icon to get a context menu, quit the app, you just have to click on the little X here to close it. I'm not sure this belongs in the dock. I think system tray icons are still a better solution for that stuff. Yes, it looks cluttered, yes, it looks messy, but I think it belongs up there, not down there. It's a matter of preference, but at least you have a way to see what is running in the background. But the app, of course, needs to support the background apps portal of Linux. And of course you can still manage those permissions and elect to not allow an application to run in the background, at which case it's just not going to show up in there the next time you close it or open it. But I think it's cool functionality to have. I'm just not sure that this is not finding a more difficult and less powerful way to handle what already exists in the system tray. Still on the dock, you can rearrange your workspaces straight from there. You can drag workspaces around to put them in the place where you want. I think that's pretty nice too. And when you're in the multitasking view, which you can access by clicking this little icon, you can start applications straight from it and you will stay in the multitasking view, meaning you can just do much like in GNOME where you open the activities view, you just start the applications you want and you put them on the desktops, on the virtual desktops that you like. I think that's a good functionality as well. It really makes using workspaces in Elementary OS a lot nicer, a lot faster. I like what they did here. And to conclude on everything window management and multitasking related, in the settings, if you go into the desktop settings up top, in the multitasking panel, you can now select to activate hot corners in full screen, meaning that even if your app is fully full screened, your hot corners that you configured will still work, which is nice because you can also decide to just open everything full screen if you like that workflow with a workspace per app, much like what macOS tried to do or still does right now. Now, of course, we can't avoid the comparison with something that just released this year, a few weeks ago as well, which is the first version of Cosmic. In terms of multitasking, Elementary OS offers basically the same amount of stuff, but they integrate it way better with their own dock. The dock is now the central place to manage all your windows, all your workspaces. It's really smooth, really fluid, works well, but you don't have all those tiling options that Cosmic offers, so it is not on the same level in terms of window management, but in terms of virtual desktops, I think it's a notch above. It really works well. Now, Elementary OS 8.1 also really focuses on the AppCenter, which is basically their app store. It's the same app as before, it looks serviceable, it works nicely. They did change a few things. First, it only handles app updates now. All the system updates are no longer in there. You will have to open the system settings instead, go to the system tab, and this is where you get your updates. They will tell you if you have some, you can restart from here. They will also tell you the size of the download if a download is needed. You can turn on or off automatic updates from there, but those things are now separated. I can totally understand that for certain users that are new to Linux, having one single place where you manage all the updates to your apps and your system can be weird compared to other systems, but also I think it's a positive, it's an advantage of Linux. You have a one-click button that keeps all of your system updated, packages, Flatpaks, system updates, whatever you want. It's just one click. Having those things split up, I don't think is a usability benefit. It might be more legible, but I don't think it's more powerful. Now, still on the AppCenter, they improved how app pages look, or at least a little bit of their functionality. First, you get a percentage-based rating here, which instead of telling you a number of stars, it gives you a percentage. So, for example, Inkscape on FlatHub has 50 ratings that net 58% positive. I would wager the positives are counted as 4 stars or more, and the negatives are counted as 1 or 2 stars, but they didn't give any details on how they calculate that specifically. It's still a nicer way of knowing what people think about it. Percentage base is just nice. It's legible, you understand what this means. 58% of people think this is good. Now, if your application has Elementary OS specific screenshots, they'll also display them here. Now, this is probably just an Elementary OS app. It's made for Elementary OS, but if applications have multiple screenshots, some for Elementary, some for basic GNOME or any other desktop, you'll see the Elementary OS version in there, which is nice because it represents what you'll actually get if you install the application. Now, of course, the AppCenter comes with FlatHub enabled by default on Elementary OS. Now, this is something that I complained about quite a lot in the past when they decided to not do it. Fortunately, they did it in Elementary OS 8. I think that was a good move. And this also means they now support application add-ons through FlatHub, so you can install more stuff straight from the AppCenter. The interface isn't the best. You only have one line and you have to scroll it. I don't like it. I don't think it's good. It doesn't resize if you resize the window. It's not very legible. I would have rather have a add-ons button. You click it and you get a pop-up or a new page with the add-ons, because that's just not very legible. It's super tiny, but at least you get the functionality, and I think that's not bad. Now, in the AppCenter, you still get paid applications, which suggest a price, but of course you can decide to pay what you want instead. But free applications no longer just say free, they say install, which is more in line with other desktops, other app stores, and what people actually expect. You also get a little label underneath the button called in-app purchases if this is an app that actually lets you buy stuff. So for example, Steam, it has what they call in-app purchases because you can buy games from Steam, and so you have this little label underneath. They also quite improved the search. It's a lot more reactive than it used to be, and it now has a 2-column view, which is, again, a little more information dense. It's a bit nicer. It doesn't look the best, the AppCenter nowadays. I think other app stores have surpassed it, but it's still a pretty functional application. You get all you need in there. You just click the install button. It works. It supports what you would expect. It's a fine application. And of course, you also get all your application updates in the updates and installed apps section. So those are merged. You get all the applications that you installed through the AppCenter and some of the ones that are installed automatically by Elementary OS. And you can either open them or update them if there are updates in there. In terms of visual updates, there's not a lot, but you will notice that the dock is now transparent with a blur effect behind it. That's also going to be the case for notifications when you receive them. When they appear up there, they will be transparent with a little blur effect behind it. I think it looks nice. You also have the same thing with the Alt-Tab switcher, so it has the same kind of blur effect. You can't really notice it right there. Let's just move this out of the way. So this is a little blurry, a little transparent. It also adapts to your dark mode or light mode, of course, which is neat. It's a little visual touch, but it looks good. When navigating with a keyboard, you also get a little highlight above elements, so you know what is currently being selected. But as soon as you resume navigating or clicking with the mouse, this goes away, so it doesn't distract you from what you're trying to do, which, again, good touch for people who need the keyboard. You see what you're doing. For people who don't need it, you don't get stuff highlighted on top of the window, and you can just navigate with your mouse. They also changed a few icons. You'll notice that the folders are a bit more rounded over here. They look neat, not too dissimilar to the previous ones, but they are, like, rounded. Everything is rounded nowadays. Window corners, menu borders, whatever. So, yeah, rounded. It fits the theme of Elementary. A few other icons have been changed, but those are minor tweaks. For example, every time you see a mouse, you will see it has a scroll wheel, because virtually all mice have that. Every time it looks at a pointer, it represents the actual theme of the pointer for Elementary OS. All of that stuff. It's a few changes here and there, but it's nothing major. The theme of Elementary OS is still the same. It hasn't really moved in Elementary OS 8, whether it's the GTK theme itself, the desktop, the shell theme itself, the menus, the icons. It's virtually unchanged. I like the look, but I know some people think it looks a bit dated now. Elementary OS also now comes with 2 new applications. First is the new System Monitor, which is brand new. Elementary OS didn't used to have one at all, I think, or maybe they shipped the GNOME one. I think they didn't have one by default. So this is an Elementary OS app, it's not the GNOME system monitor, and it looks really nice, it's good. By default you have the processes list, where you see Discord is extremely invasive on any system because it's Electron, so you can click any process and you can have the list of open files in there, you can force it to quit, you can shut it down, and you see all the stats for what it currently uses and what it does on your system. And then you have the System tab, which shows you some nice graphs for your CPU, for your RAM, for the network utilization, for the storage as well, with little graphs and little items and elements and data, and it's just good. It looks really neat. I think it's one of the most nicest looking applications I've seen for system monitoring, but it also packs a lot of information in a nice design, so I like what they have here. You also can change the update frequency for all of this data, and you can decide to show that thing in the panel as well if you don't want to always have a system monitor open, since Elementary OS is not very extensible, you don't really have extensions for their desktop. Having that baked in, I think, is really nice. The other new default app is the Maps application, which is very simple. It's not on the same level as something like GNOME Maps. It just shows you a map where you can get the transit map or just the regular street map, and you can have a system style as well if you prefer, but it doesn't seem to have the dark mode implemented for the street map, or at least it didn't work for me. You can just search for stuff. It will take you there, of course, when you type whatever you want. So I can go to the city where I live, which is Brest in France. This is a long way away from Paris. So this is the map, basically. It's not going to give you much information. You get the points of interest, but you don't really have anything to click on. You don't get little pop-ups. You can use localization. You can use your location to automatically center you. It's more here to let you open maps links that you could find online and open them in the dedicated Maps application. That's about it. It's still a nice addition. You have it, but it doesn't do much for now. Now, in terms of the updates to existing applications, they updated the Music app. You can now remove individual tracks with context menus straight from the queue, or you can clear the entire playing queue. I don't have any local music anymore, so I cannot really test that. But that music player is just for local music, and it has a playing queue. It's a nice looking one, it's good, and now you just have more agency over the playing queue. Now, the file manager now supports the admin path. So you can type admin : / and now you can open any window in administrator mode and you can navigate the entire system and you can do some crazy stuff like fully deleting stuff that you shouldn't be touching. But if you need to open a file manager in administrator mode, in basically root mode, you will be able to. Of course, it does require you to input your password. The file manager now also lets you change the date and time format to ISO, to locale, to informal, to compact. So basically you can see whatever the hell you want. You can see it, for example, in the list view or in the grid view, which are the columns view, which I think is a view that all file managers should have. And as far as I can tell, by default on most Linux desktops, only Elementary OS does it. And this is a shame because it is just fantastic. The Terminal app moved to the same tab bar as every other Elementary OS app, so it now looks more in line with stuff like the File Manager, for example. Same tabs here as in here, so same behavior, same drag and drop stuff. It works the same, which is good. You can also hide the tab bar if there's only one tab open, so there's no unnecessary clutter on screen when you don't need it. And they've also improved their copy-paste protection, which does warn you when you copy-paste some commands in the terminal, letting you know, hey, this is going to run as administrator, are you sure you want to do it or not? You can, of course, still disable it if you don't want it, but it now better detects the various commands that might do something on your system that you're not really aware of if you're just following tutorials online, so that's not bad. So not that many changes to the desktop, but the System Monitor Edition is nice. It does give you an application that follows your system's guidelines. The Maps app doesn't do much, but it's here to open links and it's going to do that. And there have been nice updates to the file managers, to the terminal. We didn't talk about the updates to the code text editor, but it does work much better with Git, and they did a lot of work on that as well. The calendar gained better accessibility support as well. There's been a few improvements here and there in all of the core Elementary OS apps as well. But there are also more settings in Elementary OS 8.1. For example, in the keyboard settings in the Shortcuts tab, you can now create custom keyboard shortcuts. By default, it offers a list of applications and actions that those apps can do. So for example, if you want a new root tab for the terminal, you can set a new shortcut for that if you want, which is neat. And you can also, of course, just add a custom command that you can type in there and set your own keyboard shortcut for that. And if the keyboard shortcut you're trying to set conflicts with something that already exists, for example, Control-C, it's gonna tell you that it just cannot do that because it's already used for copying stuff, so you can't really replace that. If you set a schedule to turn to light or dark mode automatically depending on the time of day, you can now disable that temporarily and move back to light mode or dark mode depending on what you want to do without resetting that schedule as well, which is neat. You can also decide to fully disable animations or at least reduce them, so if you get sick when stuff moves around, you can just say, I don't want that, and stuff will just open, close automatically. You don't get any animations or whatever, which is also very useful. They also redesigned the Bluetooth settings to show you your paired devices and the devices you haven't connected to yet. Of course, this is recorded in a VM because I'm on vacation and I don't have time to install the full system on a computer. But if I had Bluetooth devices, they would be split between those two categories, which is a bit more legible as well. I honestly really like the look of the system settings now. I think those nice big headers on top look good. Everything is well separated. Everything is nice and legible. I think it's a really, really nice style, a nice compromise with the GNOME style of settings without being too unified and keeping like some information density. I like what they did here. Now on Linux you have a subsystem that handles notifications set in the freedesktop.org standards. You do have some settings that you can set on Elementary OS to have your bubbles, your sounds, or appearing in the notification center or not. Some applications don't follow that properly, but you still get the option to fully disable or fully enable notifications for them if you want, which will let you bypass their misbehaving on Linux. In the quick settings, you also get the prevent sleep option, which is useful if you're giving a presentation or running a task in the background and you don't want your computer to turn off. You can click that and you'll make sure that your computer just doesn't go to sleep. You also have the usual toggles for the screen reader and the on-screen keyboard, which again help with accessibility. Speaking of which, they've done a ton of work on accessibility in Elementary OS. They revamped a bunch of labels so that they can be read by the screen reader and they can be understood as well when they're read. Little elements like, for example, warning you that the password that you're setting for your user account is of low security or low quality. It's now going to be read out loud as well. Keyboard navigation has been improved across the entire system as well, so people with disabilities can use the keyboard. You can now always open the main menu of an app by pressing the F10 key. If you decide to use an accessibility feature that doesn't work on Wayland, it will automatically select the X11 session instead, so stuff is already set up and works properly for you. Media keys also work on the lock screen now, which is very useful as well. You also have a more unified keyboard shortcut scheme. Some apps close when you press Ctrl+Q, some didn't. Now all Elementary OS apps will do so, and I think other applications will automatically close as well with that, so you don't have to hit or miss, try and guess what works or not. And they've also improved the contrast of text, especially when you're moving around all of that translucent stuff that they added, so things are more legible for people who have visual disabilities as well. So a lot of work has been done here in the apps, in the desktop shell itself, in the lock screen with the keyboard shortcuts. So good progress here. And the automatic selection of the X11 session, if you wouldn't be able to enable your features on Wayland, is I think really a good idea. Now, of course, there are tons of smaller updates here and there, more granular settings, some changes in how pages are laid out, but we can't cover everything here. Elementary OS 8.1 is a major update. It is still based on Ubuntu LTS 24.04, but they do bring the hardware enablement stack. They do bring Mesa drivers 25. They have the version of the NVIDIA drivers that Ubuntu has in their repos, so they will support newer devices as well. You can just download the ISO from their website. They will set a price automatically, but you can set a custom price and say you want to pay $0 for it, so you can at least try it before you decide to contribute. I still do love Elementary OS quite a bit. I really enjoy what they did with the dock, with the multitasking view here. I think it is a very, very good workflow. But of course, if you thought GNOME was too simple, Elementary OS is probably going to be even simpler than that, because you can't really expand it with extensions either. So it is for a limited subset of users. Anyone can use it, but a lot of people will prefer having more power at their fingertips. Elementary OS is not designed for that. But if you want a simple, smooth, elegant interface with simple applications and all the power of Linux behind it, well, I think it's still a fantastic system. Every time I use it, I think about moving back to it, then I remember that KDE has all the tools that I need, and that Cosmic is also something I'd like to try. But I still do really like what they did here. Props to them, and the next version will probably be Elementary OS 9 based on Ubuntu LTS 26.04, and now that their GTK4 transition is done, the Wayland transition is done, maybe they'll be able to bring more options, more settings, more features to the applications, maybe a little redesign here and there would be nice as well. So we'll see what they cook up, but this has been moving quite fast and I like what I see. Anyway, this will conclude today's video, but we're gonna end on this word from our sponsor, Tuxedo Computers. They make laptops and desktops that ship with Linux pre-installed. They are based in Germany, but they ship to most countries in the world, and their computers are all I use to do anything that you see or hear from me. I use one of their laptops for all the channels management and recording stuff and editing stuff and publishing stuff and writing scripts and whatever else. On their distro, Tuxedo OS, I use one of their PCs to game as well, the Tuxedo Cube. It's my gaming console sitting underneath my TV in my living room. I just really love what they're doing. They're also doing a lot of work to upstream the drivers that they develop for their devices so everyone can benefit. They're really fantastic, and they have a big range of devices that should fit every need and every price point. As usual, the link is down in the description. So thank you all for watching. You know where all the usual YouTube buttons are. Let me know what you think by clicking them, leaving a comment. You know how things work, and I guess you'll see me in the next one. Bye!